your journey from DC growing up, and obviously you've later on, dealing with mycology, even going to Holland and all that, and Switzerland in between all of that. But how was that? How was that received by your family in the household, man? That you're getting into, mycology, magic mushrooms, truffles, and trying to support people distributing that around the world, man. How was that looked upon?
So you have to look at this from my parents' perspective. And when I went to Europe, I was second year of college, projected to go to law school, and I'm like, nah, fuck this. I want to go live with this kooky white man in Switzerland and work in the mushroom industry. Yeah, they definitely weren't cool with it. Yeah, they definitely weren't cool with it. But I was grown. Now, when I first decided I wanted to jump back into these endeavors, my mother, who was super religious, was not so keen on it. She believes that, like we talked about, there's stigma. She believes that it's, I guess, devil stuff. And so she wasn't so keen on it in the beginning. My father, as an adult, I showed him the articles in 60 Minutes. I showed him the write-ups. I showed him the Johns Hopkins stuff. That all made sense to him. And he was smart enough. He's still young enough and enough of a businessman to realize that he missed the boat in cannabis. Like, had we had our ducks lined up, we could have killed in cannabis. But at that time, he was still conservative. He realizes he missed that boat, and he sees what's happening now. And so he's like, whatever we can do to make sure that you good and maybe the family is good, I'm here for it. So it's a mixed bag, and I think it's evolving in time.
Got you. And do you have siblings? Do you have like other, like your generation? How are they receiving this? Where they at with
it? I mean, so my sister is super religious. She supports me in whatever I do, but like, it's not her bag. Church is her bag, but we have intersections in mental health because she's a mental health worker. My other two brothers don't really. They have twin brothers, and they it's not for them. They'll smoke some tree every now and then, but that's pretty much where it starts and where it stops. It's what I found in my immediate. So I have a stepmother and my biological father, and what I have found is the COVID time is a great time for me to introduce what I call magic. Introduce magic to them in terms of microdoses. You all have been in that house for all this time. My stepmother caught COVID, so you're dealing with a lot of stuff in your head. Your ups, your downs. Here, some of these microdoses are going to help work some of this anxiety out. Just try it. No, you're not going to bug out. Yes, you will be able to do every single function that you were able to do before. You're just going to feel a lot better while you do those functions. And so having the opportunity to give my parent and that I guess age range microdoses is a good way to make them kind of accept and to see the applicability of what I'm trying to do over here.
All right, so that is a nice segue to get onto microdosing. Like, what is microdosing, bro? Because I've got an audience that are naive to this subject and they might not have a clue what you're talking about. So what is microdosing, and what have you, through your own experiences for yourself as well as the people that you've provided, been some of the benefits?
All right, that's actually a good question. And I can talk about some applicability, like some applications right now. So there's a bunch of different schools of thought on microdoses. Some people think that a microdose is anything a gram and lower. For me, I think a microdose is anything a half gram and lower, and even more specifically, 300 milligrams and under. And the idea, or at least, and I'm not reading this out of any books, this is just me hands-on work informing my definitions. But for me, the idea of microdosing is taking a level of magic, either straight or mixed with something else, that is so light that it subconsciously alters your mood, or subconsciously gives you a kick of energy, or subconsciously helps you focus. You still there? We good?
We're good.
All right. So it's for me, at a microdose level, it should never be like, whoa, those really hit. I've seen people approach microdoses in a number of different ways that I think are really fun and interesting. My personal way to approach microdoses is stacks. And, people have the Stamets stack or the Fadiman stack that's, this much lion's mane, this much B3, this much magic. For me, I have a number of different stacks that serve a number of different purposes. So, I know that sometimes I have insomnia and I can't sleep. So there are other entheogens that are naturally found that I could stack, like ashwagandha root. I could stack that with the magic and I'm going to relax and have a nice, good sleep. Mm-hmm. For my biggest stack and my most important stack is my lion's mane stack. And I used to do B3, but then I had the reaction. So I just eliminate B3 altogether and just go lion's mane to magic. And that helps me deal with my attention issues. Going all through school and actually all through my professional life, working in politics, I would have to take, Adderall to make sure that I was hitting my marks and paying attention and staying focused. It would be impossible for me to function in a normal job without taking Adderall. And this was my reality. That would mean that I would have to go pay for the pills. I have to go see a doctor every so often to get prescriptions for the pills. I remember I had to go see a psychologist. And this is a left turn, but I think it's a pertinent story. So in my quest to go get this Adderall in Brooklyn, I had to go see a psychiatrist, whichever ones that can write the prescriptions for Adderall. And I had to talk to him for an hour. So I talked to him and the NYPD had just pulled me out of my car, patted me down, violated me, illegally searched me, and like grabbed my private parts. They called me a homosexual and worse words. And so the next day I had to go see this therapist. So I figured, well, shit, if I'm here, I'll share. The therapist is a white man. And when I'm telling him that the police did this, his response to me was, well, they got Al Qaeda out here, and so they got to do what they got to do. And that threw me into a rage. I never saw the dude again. But that's just another reason why microdosing helps. So what I discovered was if I took the lion's mane microdose, it would help me have the same sort of focus and the same sort of linear thought that Adderall would give me without the jitters, without sweating, without clenching my jaw, without the inability to go to sleep if it's not all out of my system. And I don't have to take the lion's mane microdose every day. If I take a lion's mane microdose on Monday, I can take one on Thursday and it's still gonna be in my system. And so there's that. There's the cordyceps blend, which for me is it's an energy and immune system boosting blend. And then I'm experimenting right now. I got chaga that I'm getting ready to blend up, and I got reishi that I'm about to dive into as well. So there's just, if the world of microdosing is the wild, wild west for real. People are just now getting into it. People are just now trying to figure out how these things work and how they work in concert with each other. One of the big takeaways with this testing that we're doing is we can help measure potency so that because all mushrooms aren't created the same. And if you grind up a golden teacher one day and then go and put that into a microdose and then decide that you're going to grind up an albino penis envy the next day and it's going to be the same dose, you sorely mistaken. Mm. And so for me, microdosing is wonderful. And I know you got people that say, like the weed people, oh, weed can cure this, we can cure that, we can cure the third. If you get your microdosing protocols right, there's a number of wonderful things that I have found that could be done from taking. So the last thing, and then I'll get off of it. If you talk to me, I'm not a big dose guy. I've never taken anything over an eighth. And Ye is in my ass about it. Everybody's in my ass about it. But it's a fear that I got to get over. But I've never taken over 3.5. Now I've been doing this for 20 years, or more. But that's my threshold. That's all I need to, as far as I'm concerned, to see, communicate a little bit, come back. I am a microdose enthusiast. It really helps change my life. It helps ward off depression. It helps ward off procrastination. Like, it's not the cure-all, But in your mind, if you want these things, if you want it to go this way, it will go that way, or at least these things will help. So that's my piece.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, man, well, just on that note there, I always highlight, because obviously I'm coming from a school of thought of Kalinde, where he teaches the high dose, the macro dose. You know, I'm gonna quote my OG from Oakland, Too Short, who taught me you got to get in where you fit in. And it, you know, and Kalinde in that sense, he never taught me that you have to have the high dose. You have to. It was a matter of like, take the mushrooms, do what you got to do. They're going to give you the information that it's going to give you, and if you need to take 3.5 grams, that's what you do. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
As and when you feel the need or get the urge to take more, that's when you do. And if you don't, you don't. That's just how, you know, that's just how it goes. So, I mean, I get, you know, I'm around people and they're like, you know, in a rush to increase the dosage. And I'm like, you've got to learn how to navigate the places and spaces and do the work that you need to do. And there are some people that don't require as much fuel in the tank to do what I've got to do, that I need more fuel in the tank for. And we've got to really appreciate that. So that's just, you know, you being a psychonaut, going in your own psyche now. Look, I know my threshold. I know what I need to do, and I think that's what it's about. That is what it's about. It's definitely not a competition. It's not a race, and it's, you know, it's nothing like that. And if you can meet the ancestors on 3.5, I know people that are doing 10 grams and they're still not meeting the ancestors, and that's what they want to achieve, because it's something to do with what's going inside of you more than anything. I believe it's the complementary technology. So yeah, thank you for sharing that, bro. But with the microdosing, as you said, like it's not conclusive. You know, I just, before I, you know, I started this with you, I was on a panel on title, "Can Psychedelics Save the World?" You know, like a put on by the London Psychedelic Society here, and there was like very clear that, you know, it's like the research is inconclusive. You know, there's no hard edge study that can suggest or prove that this is the way to do it. Like you said, you've got, you know, Stammers, Fadiman, people say, you know, 4 days on, 3 days off, do it this way, that way. Is there any practical, is there a system that you could suggest for anyone? Because I always get asked that, and I'll say in that essence, you know, I've got my own approach to it, but what would, as someone who is semi-qualified, if there's a qualification in this, to say, oh, this is a good place to start with when it comes to microdosing?
So the rules, when people check in with me about this, and I have a very low bandwidth when people check in with me about this, not you, but like I have folks DM me about microdosing. I don't know. I don't like answering this question because it puts a lot of pressure on me to get it right for them, you know? But what I tell people is listen to your body, number one. Start small and work up. So if I'm telling somebody how to microdose for the first time, I say start off with 200 milligrams. You know, I always discourage people from breaking off a piece of mushroom and just eating it. I discourage that because you don't know, there's no way for you to quantify that. But start off with 200 milligrams. Early in the morning, empty stomach is what I encourage people. If you're taking one of the blends that's supposed to make you drowsy, right before or with your last meal in the day. Other than that, I encourage people not to exceed 600 milligrams in one day. So if you're taking 300 milligrams as your regimen and your tolerance is up, as it sometimes will, sometimes you're microdosing more than usual, or it takes a little bit more for it to hit. I'd say take one in the morning, empty stomach, take one around lunchtime, and that should lead you through your work day. In terms of the scheduling, again, my schedule is as needed. So right now it's gray, it's gloomy. I got a lot of deadlines to hit. So I'm going to take mine pretty much every day during the week. You know, maybe 3 days. On a light day, I'll go off. And then on the weekend, I'll be off altogether. But it's in terms of, I don't see a reason that one needs to microdose just to microdose. Having that said, I also am not a qualified mental health worker, meaning I don't know what it's like to treat major depression, chronic depression. You might have to take, twice a day, every day. And so I can only say what I've been able to gather anecdotally, which is listen to your body. Don't exceed 600 milligrams in a day. And the last thing that I always say is no alcohol. no alcohol on mushrooms. People, I think I see a lot of people make that mistake. I've seen people in my life go crazy. And I've seen people that mushrooms will not kill you if you eat them. Mushrooms won't drive you crazy if you eat a bunch of them. But mushrooms will drive you crazy if it's fighting with alcohol. Because for some reason, the spirits of the alcohol and the spirits of the divine, they don't mix. They don't mix. You know, I've seen people lose their mind drinking large amount or drinking period and mixing it with magic. So that's my 2 cents in terms of that.
Nice, no, I really appreciate the sharing, bro, because it comes up as I guess you get it a lot in your DMs. I get that type of stuff, you know, asked about me, and I'm really not qualified. I'll tell you, I'm just not qualified to speak on this, but this is, you know, what I do, and this is what I've heard other people do. But again, that is like the most popular reason at the moment, top of the charts, as to why people are stepping into the entheogenic realms and experiences. Is like they hear about microdosing and they're like, yeah, man, I'm challenged by A, B, or C, and I've heard about microdosing, maybe the way forward. And I don't knock microdosing at all. You know, it has its place, but I also feel that if you want to get to the root of those challenges as to why you might have, you know, anxiety, depression, PTSD, that you need to find a balance in having an experience and understanding what this medicine has to offer for you, where you may not even need to microdose. There might be some other things you need to do in your life to sort your shit out, basically. And that's where I think, you know, we people fighting will be able to find their balance. But again, it's because we need to just sit. If someone's going to I'll say this all the time, if somebody's going to go online right now on YouTube and type microdosing, it's very unlikely going to see somebody who looks like you, bro. And I just need to hear more.
No.
You know what I'm saying? Whatever the subject area is, yeah. So
yeah,
this is what this is about.
You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right to that point. And don't get me wrong. I just don't like answering the question because it's a lot of weight. You know, it's a lot of responsibility for me to have somebody's mental health in my hands. You feel me?
I really appreciate you sharing it just like that, bro, because that's how I feel. That's how I honestly feel as well. And, you know, and it's like, but there's some people out there, you know, they're adamant and they're going to give it to you like they know it all. They've done the research and the studies have been done when the studies haven't been done, you know what I'm saying? And it's not conclusive, you know? So, you know, there's a responsibility that comes with that. And I think ultimately each individual needs to take that responsibility, man. You need to take your own responsibility, and there's some references out there for you. You know, we make it clear we're not doctors or scientists. It's just a reference point because it's a brother who's gone through the same journey similar to you, may carry the same epigenetics, may carry the same shit that could support you, whereas in the doctor so-and-so maybe just solely coming from that clinical perspective, and it may not all add up, it may not speak your language, man. So I appreciate the sharing, man.